Okay, who's dealing with this one? Robert and Kevin and John. Okay. Make some comments before we have a discussion.
Yep.
Point of order, Madam Chair.
Point of order?
I'd like to make a personal statement.
Yes.
This discussion we've now had 3 times. The first one was at committee, the second one was at a workshop, and the third one is today. The last 2 times we've discussed 10 buildings without the information, even the addresses of those 10 buildings being made known to councillors, despite me asking at every occasion for that information to be made known. And I want on public record that I really resent that. For me to do my job as a councillor, I need the information. The fact that this whole council sat discussing a report that talked about 10 buildings and staff refused to give the information about those 10 buildings, I just find unpalatable.
Councillor Casey, I can't accept your personal statement because at no stage until today have we actually discussed this topic.
Nonsense.
We have.
Nonsense.
We
have a report talking about 10 buildings. It was a report on corporate accommodation. Do not call me a liar, because that's another thing I won't have. So I want on record today that I object to the withholding of information by the Chief Executive on the grounds that he doesn't trust councillors, or whatever words he used. It was basically that there were too many leaks to the Herald. So for that, and that's a draconian response, if ever I saw one, I never want to be refused information. I don't leak to the Herald. I ask for information I think I need to make good decisions on behalf of the people of Auckland. So just on record, you can minute that however you like. I do not want it to happen again. So that's no reflection of you, Kevin. It's not. This is absolutely to the Chief Executive. It was he who withheld it, and it's he who has given us it today. 2 weeks too late, in my opinion.
And Councillor Casey, we always said that the information would be in this report, and at any time you could have gone to the Chief Executive and asked for it.
I did ask. I asked publicly on every occasion.
Meetings. The rest of us work differently. Thank you. Right, can we get on to the report?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So today we're just seeking delegation to the Chair of the Finance and Performance Committee, the Chief Exec and the CFO to bring back a firm financing proposal for 135 Albert Street and 35 Graham Street. Just a bit of background. In November, Cameron Partners identified a financing opportunity that was over the 10 corporate office buildings. As part of this preliminary assessment, we have narrowed the financing option down to 135 Albert Street and 35 Graham Street. The reasons it's been narrowed down to these buildings is primarily due to the legal constraints over their titles, as well as some of the buildings being caught up in further potential growth in the areas. The preliminary assessment also identified the sale and leaseback as the potential structure. So again, this follows a preliminary assessment looking at the nature of the control in terms of a structure, the operational risk associated in terms of the council risk transfer, as well as the financials and capital scarcity within the council. I'd just like to note the exact details of all the proposals. Obviously, when you get into negotiation, the terms and conditions are fairly would need to be fleshed out, and these would be brought back to you as part of the for future approval.
Thank you. Councillor Crum.
Thank you. And while I'm supportive of the proposal here, to bring back a proposal, can I just get some guidance on the understanding of our guidance in relation to this topic on alternate financing? So what we've had last week was one bit of alternative financing subsumed within the Mayor's proposal, and now we've got a next step here. Do we have a timeline in operation here? I guess this is an admission that I'm losing track of via workshops, via the Mayor's proposal, the budget talks, and now here at a full F&P committee. where staff's understanding is of our guidance for this topic as a whole and a timeline. So there might be some topics that are being left for the new term, some that are coming as this one is. So have we been given that timeline, and can I get some clarity on staff's understanding of our guidance for the topic as a whole?
I'll refer to the Chief Financial Officer, but it was always envisaged that different topics would come to this committee for discussion, remembering that anything we do, and this is why it's a proposal to come back if we agree on these two buildings being put into a package, that it comes, whatever we decide, it has to go out for public consultation. Whereas, sorry? On some things, whereas, I mean, fleet cars and things like that don't, but I mean, these are strategic assets of the council. So, Sue, maybe.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Just quickly, just that comment alone, what's in or out for consultation, it's just the wider, broader look.
Well,
I think we're starting to, I don't mean this literally, but it's starting to feel piecemeal, and really this is a big, wider discussion. We kicked it off as a wide discussion, and so rather than...
I think when we went through in the beginning of back in February and March, when we had sort of various workshops where and then we talked about things that could be done without, you know, and I used fleet cars and things like that as an example, and that was all reported back to this committee.
That's correct.
Yep.
Thank you, Madam Chair. To pick that point up, if we go right back to the start of this work where it originated, which was the Budget Committee in May of last year for the LTP, and then when the reports were brought forward in November of last year, the Cameron Partner and EY reports, a lot of the resolutions that were passed at that point were actually linked to informing you for the 2016-17 year annual plan, which is what we have been doing. To Madam Chair's point, when we brought forward the schedule of work to you in February, that did separate out a number of the options that were identified by both EY and Cameron Partners into areas such as operational, being procurement, fleet, as two examples, of which we are ongoing work on those as part of our continued efficiency savings targets that are in the budgets. The other points being the diversified financial asset portfolio, which was brought forward by the Mayor last week. The corporate property, we said we would bring forward, we continue to do some work and get your direction on whether you wished us to pursue looking at potential sale and leaseback options for some of our corporate property assets. And as Robert outlined in his opening comments, there are some that is applicable to be considered and some that there are not because of various constraints. And then the last two specifically are those where we do require any decisions that you may make will be required to then be out for public consultation, and those are specifically any decisions that may be made around with respect to the airport shares or the port, and those would be for information, if I can ask you to recall, that's the last workshop we had where we had both John Crawford and Tony Gibson present. Then those, it was quite clear in that what we sought was endorsement, which was gained to continue that work as part of the 2017-18 annual plan process, because we would have to go out for consultation. So I hope that, does that clarify that question for you, Councillor?
Yeah, no, it does. And acknowledging the fact that there are many various types of bodies of work that this topic requires. So have we produced, have I missed it, a schedule of work, as you refer to, but with a timeline, a master look at what we're doing?
We get through the chair, we did do that in February. We can, I'm quite happy to do that. We will update that and we'll provide that to you all as to where we currently stand. You know, what is the status of that work? Is it a 2016-17 annual plan piece? Is it for the 17-18? We're quite happy to, we will update that and bring it back to you all.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that, thanks.
Thank you. Member Tamahiri.
Just want to make a brief comment. Caught me in the middle of an email. The issue which was discussed at length last week over the budget is the scalability of the business that councillors have to contend with, and so you have to seeing the whole system as a networked fund, for the want of a better term, at times can present difficulties. And so, in regard to the comments made by Councillor Casey, I wouldn't have expressed them in the same terse terms, but I've got an appreciation of some of the frustration, because it seems to be a death by 100 cuts when you vote on packages that come forward. But I don't think, in preference to commending and supporting officials, that there's any skullduggery involved in that. I just think that's part of the total package. And as you get information coming forward on whether you sell, lease back, etc., as part of the whole package, you have to see how it's all wired up at the end of the day. And that's the confusing part on the scalability of the business being conducted around this table. And so what the city needs to get its mind around, and officers as well, is in regard to the type of reportage we get, you're now getting to a level of requirement akin to a cabinet type of a paper, and the rigour that goes into a bunch of those. And with respect, the leadership from the CEO down really needs to reflect on, one, the quality of the paper, but secondly, the presentation of it. And thirdly, if it is part of a complete package, you might require to make it idiot-proof, and I'm not suggesting anyone around the table is, but I am saying...
Oh, we'll all put up our hands, don't worry.
But I am suggesting that a way to feel our way through that would be to review the quality of the documentation that comes before councillors, given they're varied and they're all imbued with wonderful skills, I'm sure, but some are more skilled than others in different areas. Okay, and so I didn't want to make any personal comments on that, other than to say that we'll be voting in favour of it, solely because we've got a fair idea on how it's wired.
Thank you. Councillor Darby.
Thanks, Chair. I'm happy to move this motion, and then the other thing I'd just like to see in the information that comes back is with both buildings, I think we should understand the development potential, if there is any, within those buildings. Now, we have discussed the weakness at the back of, on the Federal Street side, ground floor or first floor of the 135 building. We don't want to give that, leave that for a new owner. In some ways, we need to signal that there is potential yield there and have that priced in to our advantage. And the same for maybe 35 Graham Street. I would like to understand, is there any development potential there that's not yet realised that a new owner might realise? Do we take advantage of that and make sure that the numbers are wound up to reflect that, if you know what I mean? So that's something there. And then I gather the other question is, I'm aware of a financial institution saying that we should be bundling all our properties into a fund and then, putting it to the market. But a question for Ms. Tyndall really is, the scale is just not there for a fund to take an interest. I mean, there's complexities that are highlighted here, but even if those complexities were unravelled for the balance of the properties, my layman's view is I can't see a scale there to attract anybody that would be interested in maybe a 500 or maximum $500 million fund. Would I be sort of? You've looked at that?
No, not as a package. This is really the next stage where we come back with all the options. If that's serious consideration, there's actually deemed to be a market interest in that. That will be one of the options that comes back to you.
Okay, it'll be in the mix there. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.